Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Friday afternoon. Market rally continues. So, how is everyone doing? Hey, Lauren. Hey, Anissa. This might be a quieter day. Hopefully, some people took the afternoon or the rest of the day off. Just wanted to recap a couple things. We'll do a we'll do a more in-depth analysis on Sunday afternoon. We had consumer sentiment coming out better than expected, like I thought. What's interesting is future expectations came out stronger, present expectations came out worse. So even though the number jumped, people aren't very happy right now, but they're happier for the future. Also, the inflation expectations coming in still around 5% for future inflations. So inflation's still on everybody's mind. Where else do we sit? You can see here, pretty strong rally across the board. Very little red, lots of buying. FOMC still favoring that 50 basis point hike, and we're rapidly getting deep into positive gamma territory. What I wanted to cover real quick, besides just taking a quick look. All right, so as I talked about earlier, we started to get that close above, and that's on a 1 hour. But you started to get with these momentum bars. Let me just show you here. See how it was back and forth. Then we got the close, and right around 10 Central, but I shifted the 15 minute. Get the close above there, so we start targeting the 87, where we got a little pause and you trail the 100, and then you do the reverse harmonics. Another pause there to trail the stop, then some more areas to either trail a stop or unwind something going into the rest of the day. Just wanted to cover that. By the way, looking at this on the S&P is not a double top. So we don't have that pattern, at least on the S&P, pull back overall to the rotation zone, and then the strong rotation back up. Hello, options 22. We'll get to something else in a second. NASDAQ does have a potential double top. Also, let me flip these now. Again, before I flip those, same difference here. Close above the 62.5. You target the 87 to the 100. Didn't even need to do the reverse harmonics because it's essentially stalling out at those key levels. So now we got to flip the short-term harmonics, and there is still a potential double top in the NASDAQ. Okay, with especially the first and second targets. And you see even the final target is right at the key support, this 12,990. So that is in place. The Dow also no potential double top. You see stalling out at the second harmonic. I don't have to go through everything in detail with all these because you already know the 62.5% levels. Let me just flip this around for next week. What was interesting? Oh, again, the Russell. The Russell just marching on. No potential double there. So everything's in still. We got go juice mode. We got everything screaming higher. And by the way, proprietary system. I remember I cited long-term system actually flipped to buy mode today. So we have a buy mode on a proprietary system I cannot release, but that is a buy mode. So that solidifies continued higher prices. And you know how I like this other one we follow that I use for sectors, and just a quick glance at with the markets. Let's get to our main watch list. That triggered. Here we go. That triggered a buy mode. Now, what's interesting is unless we get a flip like next week, this favors higher prices, not new highs. It favors higher prices unless we get the flip. If we get the flip, which would take a massive move, it would take an outside bar next week at a minimum. And it would have to happen pretty much next week to get the flip move. This favors higher prices. Again, we're in. I've been through a lot of bear market rallies, and this is one of the strangest I've ever been, especially with the junk. It's literally people think the junk is going to the moon. It's not even sane stocks. It's not even like all right, we're just gonna go all in with Apple and Microsoft, which have been rallying. It's going all in with junk, which is just fascinating. But I got to go with the probabilities. Can the probabilities still be wrong? Yeah, because well, the long-term system's over 80%. So yeah, there's a just under 20% that it's wrong. But I got to go with 80% probabilities. I got to go with above 70% for this. That it means higher prices. So I got to stay with the at least medium term to even potentially slightly longer, which I'm going to stay, unless this flips, I got to stay on pullbacks in bull mode. Pullbacks are in bull mode until I get some medium or longer term sell signals again. That's what it is. Hey, John. Did I say hey to you, Ted? Hey, Ted. Hey, John. Hey, I'll just say good. Hey, options. Hey, Patrick, headed off to the lake, off the grid for a few days. Happy trading. Good. Have a nice time, Patrick. Again, I'll say hi to Anissa and hi to Lauren. The market like 8% inflation. What a joke. This is why, again, it's not what we think should happen. It's what you have to trade what is happening. Yes, and that was the S&P. It's not just the S&P. I mean, it's a little harder. I'm not going to erase all these lines, but you can see it flip on the NASDAQ. You can see it flip on the Dow. Let's just go through it. You can see it flip on the Russell. It's not one of them. It's all of them. Let's just check the DAX. The DAX, sorry, Germany. Sorry. But the DAX, I just want to point something else out too, though. Just point something else out too. With the DAX closing above the 62.5, hitting that nice harmonic right there. That's why we use these. I hope people are starting to incorporate some of this. But this favors now potentially the DAX returning to the area of the 200 and the 87.5. Go juice mode. Go gadget mode. Activate. So that's where we sit. Where's Coco? Stocks just go up. Well, I don't know. They should be here. Now the market is priced rate. The market's pricing in everything. This is, and so you got to trade what is. Again, not what you think. It's a lesson you got to learn. So we have a long way, even with an orderly pullback. Now, again, I'm going to stress. When I see this, the one I follow, not the one I can't release, but the one I can show you, when that generally flips to buy mode, we do get a pullback. So I am really expecting a pullback now next week. That pullback, unless it flips back to sell, which is a rarity but can happen, and that would be very, very bearish then. That would be one of the rare whipsaw moves, but if that does happen, it would be very bearish. Then these pullbacks are still buys. All right. There. We can just go home. You can take the rest of the summer off. Just buy. Just buy. Let's just take a look at the notes again. A little bar pausing here. Cycles still stuck at the bottom on the daily and still rolling over on the weekly. So still going to watch for somewhat longer bottoming pattern once we get the cycles going down. Crude, nice little pullback here after the rotation zone. Double still in play. VIX, this will be a gift at some point. The VIX, the gift that keeps on giving, which will be wonderful. So watching for next week down about 1850. Where else do we sit? Japanese yen. No, I'm not sorry. The yen. I don't want the yields. We could be getting a potential head and shoulders in there, but not yet triggering today. A little up day. Swissy, by the way, I forgot to mention this the other day, did trigger on a daily and a weekly basis this double top. So I'm still watching for this to 93, then 92, 93, 93.20 area. and then possibly 90, 95, which is the major support. So that's headed down. Bitcoin, interesting enough, could not get a major rally on today. This was pretty pathetic with the NASDAQ being up over 200 basis points. Bitcoin, uh, so, but we're not getting a rollover move on the NASDAQ yet. Hey, I just was. Hey, it's funny how the spot, and Bitcoin still. Yep, Bitcoin. This is interesting. Interesting. So you mentioned a potential CPI push earlier this week near 4,300, close to that now. Yep. Did the war end? You know what? This is where we're also in summer. Look, don't question it. Just go with probabilities. That's how you got to learn to trade. If you trade what you think, then you're gonna, you know what? Don't. It's a hard lesson to learn. Trading what you think should happen versus what does happen. Could you peek LMT on the longer term sell? The longer term sell, no, it's still got 440.12. And by the way, you do have a potential double top also. So no, LMT is not, because anywhere in here can still do a rollover play. And remember, it's stop reduction, so that's why this has been reduced. But no, it's not off the table yet. Would I please do NFE in the 1 day? On the 1 day. I'd be watching for a potential top, at least a pullback play in NFE right now. It's in a bull trend. It broke out. Stop reduction. Essentially hit take profits inside bar. At this point, I'd be watching for a pullback into at least the daily rotation zone with cycles at the top. So I'd be watching at least for 54, mid 54s, possibly all the way back to 51 5140 area, which would be the breakout area. You're way overbought. Again, this is another thing that's getting juiced up. So much stuff is getting juiced up. But that's your thing. I'd be watching for a key pullback and then revise your harmonics. But that's where we sit now. So if you're still long this, depending on your time frame, I would be more aggressively moving up a stop at this point, because you could get a pullback play for a re-entry should we still say in go-go mode. I know you were joking, Lauren. Earlier I covered that this morning. I covered that on the 1 hour. And you got the little breakdown and then the reversal with the juice markets. Still, I'd just be moving a stop down with this, and 24,431 would stop out that pattern. Now I'd be more aggressive moving it down. No idea, but we're still getting. I mean, we could see after the next pullback, we could theoretically see juice easily into the early September with this market. I mean, literally everybody I talk to is going all in margin, all in everything. Everything across the board's new highs. Everything's going to new highs. So that's where we're at, and I do that for a sentiment indicator. I'm getting ARC's going to be back over 100 by September. ARC, we had the double bottom. So it's still, I mean, with still got to just play the probabilities. But over 100 by September, that's what we're in. If you don't buy now, you're going to miss out. This is the last opportunity to get ARC in the double digits. It's going to be over 100 by September. Again, John, with NFE, you can, in this market, you can also trail. RSI very overbought cycles at the top. If you want to try to stay in it, you can trail. By the way, people ask me with the percent B, which I don't. I'll use it at points. If generally I use it for buys in the stocks, and I'll go more into this when I release it. It is over at least a short term spike level, which this is a great area to raise a stop. So an aggressive stop, if you're looking to capture a lot of this move, would be below today's low because of where the percent B is. So if you get, especially on a closing basis, below today's low, that would be a stop level and then a pullback pattern. So that's where we sit. What happened to 32? 33, what are you referring to? So I agree. I think these markets will easily test the 200. Oh, if I could type. I mean, I have next area for 431. Again, would not be surprised to see a pullback here at least. But, you know, options expiration next week. And for that also, we're at 42.81. If we do get a pullback, the major strikes to pin are 4,200 and 41.50. But at this point, it'd be 4,200. You have a great weekend too. See you Sunday. 33 was ARC. I think ARC's still going to roll. Once ARC rolls over, I remember ARC rollover, we will see 30 and then 25 before this bear market's all said and done. In the meantime, you could easily see 55 and 58. That's fine, Rich. I'd wait for at least some kind of significant topping pattern. People that I'm talking to are getting their heads ripped off by trying to call the top every day and go short. Literally, they're short last for a day and then or even intraday and then they're out. They're like, it can't go much higher. It can't go much higher. So what I'm saying is that's why at the end of the day, you know, it'd be easy for me to say, oh, well, you know, ignore the long-term signals, ignore that, or just not tell you about the proprietary one, but it's tip to a buy. Okay? You got to trade probabilities. I'm going to keep, that's probably the lesson for today. Learn to trade probabilities, not what you think. Because, yes, there's always chances that the probabilities, look, they're not wrong. There's just that window of, hey, look, even at 80%, there's a 20% window. It could be off. It could be, you know, it could go back down. Yes. But would I want to be constantly shorting against 80% at this point? No. If there's a great short-term topping indicator, yes. And we'll probably get a lot more signals before the next significant rollover, then you can ride it back down. This is what I had to learn this early on in my trading career. You can't trade what you think. You got to trade the market. And the only way, it's the same way when I used to count cards and everything else, you got to put the probabilities in your favor. All right. When the like, all right, I'll give you an example. You're dealt, an ace up, but the deck does not favor like face cards. Your deck does not favor. All right, they've already been mostly depleted. So you got an ace up. I don't care if you think oh man, I should increase my bet because this is probably blackjack. This is probably 21. They're going to flip, it's going to be 21. Hey, the probabilities say the face cards are pretty much depleted. You don't up your bet because of what you see on the table. You go with the probabilities that the face cards are depleted and it's not going to be a blackjack. Even though you want it to be, even though hey, wouldn't that be great if it was? You got to bet with the probabilities. And if the probabilities, that's when you do table minimums. Why? Because the face cards aren't in your favor. So it doesn't matter if you think, look, I could, but if I up it just for this one hand, maybe I get the 21, maybe. Yeah, face cards aren't in your favor. It's also then not in your favor for the dealer to bust because face cards are depleted. So you get double whammies. A, you're not probably going to get the blackjack. B, when face cards aren't in your favor, the dealer's got a higher odds of standing below 21 and not busting. Does that make sense? So even though you might want something to happen, even though you might think it should happen, even though you look at the data, even though you say, what is juicing this stuff? Why are some of these meme stonks going through the roof again? Look, it doesn't matter. You got to trade what is. Now, with the probabilities, I'm not going to chase meme stocks higher, but you got to find entries. And when you get bullish entries, you can't just shrug it off and say, nah, I'd rather just put on puts. I'd rather just go all in on puts. What if it goes 10% higher from here? Then what? What if it goes another 15%, 20% higher from here? Then what? You're fighting the probabilities. I hope that makes sense to everybody. You were a blackjack dealer. Very cool, Lauren. Your first job. That was your first job being a blackjack? That's a pretty cool first job. So, yeah, play the probabilities. That's how you're going to be in the markets for a long time. Also, again, what I said yesterday with Bob on, speculate, don't accumulate. Is this where I want to just, even with 10%, let's say we go 10% higher, is this where I want to just back up the truck, load up my long-term basket of stocks, and just walk away for a year or two? No. This is where, you know what, you take the patterns hit, you play the patterns. If your stops get hit, you take the stops, and you go with that. And then when there's the accumulate mode, which we will get to at some point again, then you start setting stuff up for just long-term gains. You love numbers, huh? Rolling Hills Casino, Corning, California. So, that's really all I have to say. No, Bob's not. Remember, Coco, you have so much to learn. Why would Bob be pissed? You take the chunk out of the middle. You're not trying to call the high or the low. You take the chunk out of the middle, and it's not personal. You take the chunk out and you find the next trade. You have so much to learn, Coco. Look, Bob took profits 41.50. You know, the funny thing is, we could roll over next week. Again, 41.50 is a pin area. Come back to 41.50. There could be a re-entry for another buy signal. That could be ridden a lot higher. You don't know you can always look in the rearview mirror and say, but you know what? If I had a magic rearview mirror, I would have bought the low tick on June 16th. Instead of, look, even the aggressive buy didn't trigger until the next week. Would I have rather bought with a magic rearview mirror here or here? Well, it'd be here. But I didn't get a signal for a longer term till here, which was aggressive. But you can always look back and say, well, why would you get pissed off? Well, if the market turned lower and dropped by 5%, you would have said, hey, look at Bob, how smart he is. You never leave money on the table. You take you're not going to call the high or the low. That is an absurdity. If you're always theoretically then leaving money on the table unless you bought the low and sold the high. You're always theoretically leaving money on the table. It's an absurd mindset. And you're not going to buy the low and sell the high. Because even if you buy in the middle of the low bar, let's say you bought on the week of June 13th. The people who actually bought the low of that day that are still in, I bet you there's not a single one of them. All right? You're never, well, I can't say never because you could luck out and buy a low and sell theoretically a high. But did people sell this high and buy this low? No. Will SPY make it to 430 on Monday? We'll take a look more on that. I think I'm going to wrap this up. Will it make it to 430 by Monday? I hate timing stuff. It could. I mean, theoretically it could. I don't even check what data out. What would I be in now? It's trailing. As I said the other day, it's just trailing until we get some kind of sell signal. And there is no even short-term sell signal yet. You should be confident about your trade. Well, he was confident about his trade, and it hit his target. I tend to agree that S&P will hit the 200 MA. And you can take profits, and there's always another trade. There's always another trade. VIX is not going... Coco, this just shows your ignorance. Are you turning into another TomTom? VIX is going to zero? The VIX is not going to zero. That would completely be illogical. Why can't the VIX go to zero? That would imply there's no volatility. If there's no volatility, you have no market. So VIX is not going to zero. Are you just trying to be the new TomTom? VIX is going to zero. All right. You know how the VIX is going to zero? If the market shut down. Then the VIX is going to zero. If the market completely shut down, then that's when your VIX would go to zero. VIX is not going to 0.1. VIX, it's just not happening. You'd have what? Here's your long-term VIX. You don't get much below 10%. You occasionally drop briefly below 10. You don't get much below there. This is extreme complacency in the market when it gets down even to 10. All right. That's where we sit. Oh, it won't ruin my day. It won't ruin my day. Hey, W Browser. Thank you for being here. Glad to see you again. Let's get into trouble, baby. Mo Fuzz from Tape. What a great movie, Tapeheads. So there we go. With the throwback quote to Tapeheads. There we go. We're going with the markets like in the 80s. So let's keep it up with that. Again, we're still celebrating. We hit 5K subscribers today after a long, hard push. Hopefully everybody did not unsubscribe overnight. Or they won't all unsubscribe tonight. But I will talk to everybody again. I'll be back on Sunday. On Sunday afternoon to let's see what we'll get set up for next week going, and we'll take a look at the economic reports, but I'm not seeing a lot. And we're winding down earnings season, so it could be a quiet rest of August until Jackson Hole. You are welcome, Lauren. Again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will chat with you all in a couple days, and I'll get out at some point a sector overview. So we'll be prepared for next week, option expiration. Bye for now.